Well, today it's going to be an interesting discussion. We're going to move into that realm between audio and IT, and Brittany Hilton is with us, and she's going to tell us about the IQOYA system from Digigram and how this can really make things easy in the control room or wherever you happen to be. So, Brittany, let's turn it over to you.
Well, thank you, Barry, for having me on here. I really appreciate the opportunity to share this with all the ladies and gentlemen that are viewing this. I am going to share my screen so I can talk a little bit about the connected infrastructure, if that's okay.
Here we go.
Let me know that you can see my background and we'll be good to go.
Yep.
All right. So what makes our system a little bit different, very, I'll say interesting, is our GUI per se, our fleet management system, our ability to control your talent from the cloud. Many of you have seen this presentation before, so don't get too sleepy on me because I will cover some bitrate issues and jitter and things of that nature. First of all, this is IQOYA Connect. This is your basic plan if you exclude guests, docs, and call monitoring. This would be your basic plan. If you get a IQOYA Talk or an ST, you have IQOYA Connect, which will allow you to have as I call it, a user-defined profile setting, which in layman's terms just means this person can connect to these units. And you can go through, or these algorithms and these units, saying that I want them to just talk to Brittany, Juan, these serve links, and certain codecs. Why that is special and why you can change it in your user-defined profile setting is, per se, I have a talent that goes out in the field and is not very familiar with how to utilize the talk. Then what you can do is come over here to call monitoring. You can take this and then deploy the unit. I happen to know that this one is sitting audio. And you can deploy a call, and it is talking to it, making sure that it wants to work. I've got my talk over here. My side says that it is already connected. And so you can see this is like your metering bar. So it's going to say how well and how strong this particular algorithm is. So if you need to change it from stereo to mono, or if you need to change it from Opus to AAC, vice versa, or MPEG, you can do this on the fly. And again, my codec is fully connected. If I were to be running any type of audio backend through it, you'd be able to see a mic line as well. But you can also do this with guest. On guest, you'll just have to let me know, Barry, which ones you want me to go through.
Whichever ones you would like to show, and folks could ask questions, I'm sure.
Okay, all right. I'll tag on to the rest of the talk. So this would be the control surface that you can utilize while connecting to your remote codec. So if you do have someone in the field that is not familiar with how to use this said product, or they're fresh out of college, high school, it's a high school broadcast, and you're bringing your IT department in to learn something about broadcast communications, and you are the engineer back at the studio, you don't actually have to go to the game. You can send them the box. You can have SIM cards already loaded into the SIM card slots, because there's 2. Or you can send them like a Max Connect box that I have mine routed to as well. And you can just connect it to it, log in with your 4-digit PIN or 6-digit if you're going to be complicated with that one. Log into it, and then it downloads all of your profiles, all of your settings. So basically everything that was over here, when you see my information upon setup, all of my IO is here. This is how I wanted it set up. So Mary, Brian, Barry, all of you guys might want, your mic way up here, mic down here. You might have a microphone that doesn't need phantom power, however it may be, but you can set it up however you need to. And this, you would just save to your presets and settings. And you can switch between it. So say if you're going from a classical station to a rock station, or you're going to go to a talk station. All of those might need different presets. One person might not be talking over another person. And at that, you can go ahead and control everybody else's. And when I say everybody else's information, here is your mic line. So if you think that the guest on mic line 2 is talking very loud, you can bring this down. Come over to your little mixer over here. You can even take the audio away from them, but they can also get a headphone too, and you can bring their mic up. So now you see that they are literally screaming at themselves, or that they're very loud, that they can hear themselves, but on your audio, you've brought the mic way down. And just, this is an exaggeration. This is not real settings that you guys would be using. So don't judge me on my settings. This is just for estimation points. You can also bring up your auxiliary inputs because you can daisy chain into another console should you need to have like a roadcaster, because you're going to interview 10 people or 6 or 7 more people rather than just the 3 people that are sitting in front of you, or 4 people. So this would be a way to live bring up and down their headsets, what they're doing, how they're hearing it. You know, if you're hearing them in the talkback saying, you know, I don't want to hear the program at all. I just want you to tell me when to go online. Fine. Okay. What do you want, left or right? You want it left or right for X or Y? You want talkback 1, talkback 2? Where do you want to hear things, especially if you're not familiar with it? So this is all your settings, but you can do this live with the manage part of Connect. Again, Connect is like the house that holds all of these items together. Now you can get Guest independently, and Guest is a third-party codec, like web codec, that is easy to integrate with anybody's product as long as it's connected to SIP. For instance, I will, this, by the way, it does not need any type of app download. This would be, I send you an email or I send you a link. You would bring up Guest. Okay, so it's ready to place a call. I've terminated call on there. And then you can didn't want to blast everybody out, but that was just an indication that I was connected to a codec that is over in France, and I had a recording. I didn't have my mic on, but this was just a basic connection. Now you can also do advanced as well, which you guys might find this part interesting. Okay, see, there's something different up here, and there's something different here. I'm going to call it the same codec. Okay, you can also add in bumper music. So say it's someone saying, wow, or something interesting. I have all this stuff somewhere. There you go. So now we can have this as just even a point to point. So I can be speaking with Barry, and we can have this going on in the background of our conversation. So this is just kind of layered music, or this can be whatever you need it to be. It can be the call letters. So you can play that as a snip, you know, kind of unravel your mind, but this is your web codec. So you're basically putting this into almost an automation system where you want to have a live talk application, and you want smooth jazz in the background because that's what your people respond to. You can put some smooth jazz in a WAV file, however your playout wants to be played. I just happen to have some audio saved on the computer and wanted to play it. Over here, this is where we would talk about your bitrate and your streaming options as well. This is not the jitter part of the conversation, but this is at least the bitrate. So what we can do is, if we know that we're in a place that we can gobble up a whole lot of bandwidth, then we can, hop up here to 256 and then send that to your guest. Or you can pop down here because you're like, you know what, this place is in the middle of nowhere and I don't have a whole lot of options. So you can switch from mono to stereo. It's just voice, so stay with mono. You reset it. And I don't want to go light so you can do smartphones. So if I want to, I'll just do this for a second. Okay. So do I have access to a clipboard here? Chat, there we go. So Barry, I'm just gonna send this to you for a second.
All right.
All right. So if only Barry, just Barry alone, clicks this, just because I don't have 100 and something units going here, you can click that and you can be able to hear the audio that's coming from France on codec 1 and 2.
All right. Where am I clicking?
So click in the meeting chat. There is a hyperlink that I sent you.
Oh, okay. All right.
And bring that up in your browser.
Yep.
And then there's a little green cell phone down at the bottom. And you'll just click. Okay. Did you hear audio?
Yep.
And you're sending us horse with no name.
Yes, horse with a name. Yes, that is correct. That is what is on the French codec for us US representatives. So that is a guest codec. You don't have to download apps and you don't have to,
Yeah,
pay. I'm sorry.
I'll stop that so that you can talk.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, just go ahead and close up the browser. That way, if someone else wants to take a drive, they can take a drive as well. Just chat inside the meeting chat. Just say who's going to take a drive on it next. Because
Okay.
this is essentially the web codec, and you would get a recording of this back to your computer.
Okay, anybody would like to try, go right ahead, and I've just deleted this, and you can pull your browser up or just click on the link.
Yep.
It was that simple. So Brittany, one of the things that interested me a lot when we were talking is that this works for all the different needs that a station might have. It could be a live remote, it could be a sporting event, or it could be a guest on the telephone, or I don't know, is there video as well possible? Or is
Well,
this
so usually what we do, thank you for bringing it up. So what we did with Duquesne University, we sent out a serve link that can do 128 channels of mono or 64 stereo. And what we did is we had them pair it with Zoom, exactly how we're doing it now. And we had them turn off all of the audio for Zoom. So you're not throttling down your bandwidth or anything like that. Set the jitter to the right spot because all internet has a speed test variant that would require slowing down or ramping up. And so if everybody has their jitter all set correctly, and this is what the engineer would do, then you can actually play simultaneously with 4 other people. So we would hold classes virtually, exactly how we are having a communication. They would be able to play simultaneously using the IQOYA guest link to a serve link. Again, it took a little bit more background engineering. I'm making it very, very simple to discuss this as far as there was one box over here and then there was a cloud codec and then you could record it to your desktop. That is the most simplified way of saying that essentially what you did is you went into, just going to go in here, Studio 35, configure, and for any of your different inputs, outputs, etc., what you're able to do is codec 1, 2, listening port, etc. We're going to go through here and tell it what it needs to do for IP streaming, what your jitter, bitrate, and buffer size would be, and what your listening port would be. And so this is how you would configure for each person who would be calling in, if you wanted to go that in depth. But if you just want to have a simple call, then my call to you could just be a guest to guest situation, or as long as you are in the address book. Let's see. So I just added some people. Let's do. Barry, what was your email address again?
Barry@oldradio.com.
Okay, and so what I would do there, so since we have that, I'm going to do, just for the example, I'm just going to say, where are you? I'm going to do a new guest link.
Mhm.
This is how you would set up a guest link. This is how easy it is. So Barry, we're not going to start date or end time or anything like that. Should the link expire, yes or no? You can make these terminate at a certain time, or that it's good for 30 days and that's it. So again, you can have recurrent people on. You can have them on as often as you want to with this particular link, or you can, again, terminate this at a certain time where you're like, you know what, I don't want this person back on. So it terminates after this event. I'll have to recreate a new one for you. So next, this is where it's going to show, what do I want him to see? Do I want him to see the advanced panel where he can mute and unmute his mic at his will, or where he can upload some audio that he might have on his phone or his computer? Like, hey, did you hear this clip? Let's record this in our conversation via Zoom, because did you hear this clip? So you at this point, Barry, would be able to upload a file. You want it muted, unmuted. I usually start with everything muted. You want ACG on, and what bit rate would you like to have, right? So then I'm going to go with next. And then I'm going to tell you which codec I want you to talk to. Okay. And then I'm just going to say, I'll email myself the links. And then I'm just going to go over here. Very sorry, you're at the top.
Mm-hmm.
So again, Barry, this would actually be yours, and you probably already have an email to it. I get a carbon copy of it because it's my account. And then again, you're hearing a horse with no name.
All right.
So now you would be able to actually be on a formal interview, being on that station. So whether your automation is kicking in or not, you would be able to communicate and leave a live interview, add bumper music to it. At the break, you insert X, Y, and Z, or you could just listen in on it and record it if you need to do it for recording sessions. But that's also how you would do a journalist type of application.
Now, part of the IQOYA is it records to the cloud or locally, or both?
So both. When I pushed play, when I was up here, and I said, all right, I would like to dial. It asked me, do I want to have a recording of this? Yes or no?
Mm-hmm.
I want a copy. I agree. Whether they agree or not makes no difference. You still get a carbon copy right here.
And each person is a separate recording, so that if you have two guests, you have two different recordings on the cloud or on your machine, or both.
So I acted as the producer and the guest when I was deploying your guest codec at that point. I was initiating the call from either side. So I now have the ability right here as a producer. I can download mine, I can download yours, that it's a cloud, or I have my local recording. So you can download from whatever side you want to.
What's the limitation now? Suppose you're at a sporting event and recording it. Is there a limitation in the cloud?
I'm going to say not really. I mean, yes, there is at some point, at some threshold, there is. But I've accidentally left this on record overnight. And then I woke up to like a huge record of just the convention floor and everything that was going on the convention floor. And so I deleted it because I'm like, well, nobody needs to hear the convention floor for 24 hours on accident, or at least 12 hours. So this can go a pretty good while. Now, if you're talking about the talk, that has a 64-bit internal drive that you can record everything from bumper music to interviews on, as such. But this is servers. These are servers that are cross-connected from Italy to Singapore, France, Canada. All of these are backed up on another backup. So when you're talking about recordings, this is kind of a limitless type of situation where your potential is whatever you want to make it. Now, if you want to clean it up because you don't want to have 6 years of recordings on here and 50,000 of them, then delete them as being needed. But you're not going to be limited per se by this type of cloud service.
Sure. Zoom, for those that do or do not know, you can record locally or you can record on the cloud, but the cloud limits it's to 1 gigabyte unless you buy more. And you could easily run over 1 gigabyte, and we do every week, as a matter of fact, which is why I record elsewhere. And so to have unlimited access there with IQOYA, that's nice.
Yeah. And you can rename it too. So say I want to do this, I want to rename it.
Anyone in the audience have questions at this point? Either stick your hand up or alternate A, or press your space bar. I see David, you're getting ready.
Yeah, Brittany, first off, is there an IFB channel that you can communicate to the person recording going back from the studio?
Yeah, so essentially what you can do now, I'm going to talk about the talk first and then the guest, if that will work. So the talk, you actually have a physical, if this will work with my camera, a physical, is it working? No, it's not working. Doesn't want to see my talk. There's an actual talkback button that you can use, that you can physically dial whatever codec you want to, whatever channel you want to, and you can have a listening port. You know how all that goes. So you can physically dial that talkback to whatever station or to whatever codec you would like to have. Now, when you have the advanced version where you have the listening port, you are the producer, so you are listening. So that is one of your IFB channels because you are actually actively listening to it. Now, what they can do is mute their mic and communicate with you offline. So most of the time, what people are using the IFB talkback for is to just have that guest codec in general. Like, this is their talkback in its sense, is I would like to tell you whatever's going on. I might be recording at the talk. I might be recording somewhere else, and my talkback is being used to talk to another talk that's on hole number 2. So I have nobody to talk to unless I call this codec, which might be a guest on a cell phone next to me. And so that's like your IFB as well.
Is there a remote tally, and can you conference 2 of these?
No, you cannot conference the 2. You have to have multiple codecs running into them together. That's why you would use things like the ServLink to do a time alignment with like RTP streaming, or like the UDP, RTP, PGP. You would do a time alignment and you would adjust your jitter and your buffer and all of those bit rates that we were talking about for this particular item for guest.
Is there a tally system that would let it know that yes, you're on the air or anything like that?
When you click this button,
right? Is there anything on the screen that is larger that would say on air or something like that?
Up here, if you would take a notice, so this is gonna record, it's gonna probably be a little bit loud, so I don't know, I have to get these things done. Up here, there's gonna be a metering bar for one, and I'm gonna show you a second place where you'll see this. So that shows that you're online, but also I'll go over here to call monitoring. When I deploy that, actually, Barry, if you want to do this, click that hyperlink again, and it'll be able to show codec 1 and 2 is actually being called, and this will show you that that you can monitor it, if you don't mind.
All right.
I'm utilizing use my Vanna White. There you go. So here, David, you'll see, sorry, you'll see right here that his codec is being connected, and it stopped.
I just stopped it for the music.
Oh, that's fine, and that's okay. But so you were able to see that the metering bar was starting to catch in. So you could see that it was on and it was on air, and you would actually be able to see the analytics of when it was online, down over onto this side, and you see call history. You can see what happened. Did he terminate? Did we lose? Did we lose connection? If you lose connection, unexpected call, or if I just like ripped the power out, which was probably like at LAB, which are or GAB, like done, off, batteries out, unexpected call, interrupted. So this is where you would see like the hang up the call, the warnings. Did that answer your question appropriately?
Yeah. Yeah, and I assume since this is web-based, it's able to be used mobilely with mobile
Yeah,
devices.
so that was kind of the idea of being able to email this into a chat. So David, if you wanted to do this for an example, is bring up your cell phone on a web GUI page, just any internet page, like new page, and then type in that particular web link, and then it should bring up that codec, and you should be able to call that codec.
Unfortunately, not from this office, but that's besides the point.
Okay, all right. If anybody else wanted to demonstrate, they could do so by typing in this particular unit. So again, this is not constricted to my cell phone. Say a talent drops their cell phone, you know, in the washer or down a drain or in the toilet or wherever it may be. They drop it, they've lost it. Okay, well, you still have to be on air. Open your email somewhere or get someone to forward you this text and use their cell phone at this point. So it doesn't matter where you are. You can open this on an iPad, a computer. You can have this in a professional studio sense. But one of the reasons this was developed with the whole distance learning education type of mindset is that also during the pandemic, if I'm allowed to say that word, and it's not like a curse word at this point, during the pandemic, is that you could have doctors calling in and you can have people giving their opinions and they can record it to a guest line, and they don't have to have any professional microphones in general. You don't have to send them a Q mic or a full set of anything. You could just send them just this link, but it actually does send you a pretty little link, which Barry, I'm gonna put you on blast for a second. This is what Barry's email would be if he wants to access this in his email, because since I'm the producer, I get a copy of it and it's telling me exactly what Barry is going to look like. Now you can also configure this to have your own station logo, and you can say test Barry to be different things in general. But yeah, sorry to do that for you, Barry, but had to for a second. But so that's how you would see an email link. But it's as simple as clicking this when we're on a conference, because you want to be able to record this conversation and then go back and later on take some snippets out of this conversation. How you feel about that? Anybody have any questions? Colin, Ben, Paul, Bueller?
Since this obviously Digigram is an audio company and you do audio well, has there been a thought to do this with video as well?
No, there's not a thought. I mean, we're SMPTE to was it 2010 or 2110 compliant. It's just another layer that we can add to it. But if we're working with these particular codecs in a certain manner, virtualized codecs and virtualized sound cards will probably be coming at some point very, very soon in our near future. So a presentation will probably be likely of, hey, we have this codec and we can actually put a sound card on it to affect the way that your voice is sounding, so we can send this directly out to an IceCast, which we can already. It's not that we haven't given any thought to video encapsulation distribution, but you know, the heart and soul of Digigram has always been audio transport, audio streaming, and audio distribution. I mean, it's in most of your airlines, most of your airplanes, Boeing, it's a lot of your DOJ type of applications for multilingual transport, maybe courtroom from point A to point B, airing that on a YouTube channel and pairing it with a video because in general, you break apart audio and video most of the time to send it so it's a smaller packet, and then you time align it to get it back together. Correct me if I'm wrong, TV guys, but that's usually what you do is you break it apart, you demux and you remux, time alignment, and then you distribute. Because if not, then you're sending a really big package. And so when you have packet loss, you're losing audio and video. And if you deal with the advertisers on any level, usually if you're able to retain at least audio through the video breakout, then you can still apply your billables. Paul Jusiak, this might be a ping right in your direction. Is that how you have your advertising dollar configuration structured? I know you're on there, Paul.
He's hiding from you.
You can't hide from me, Paul. I will call you.
I'm doing
Brittany?
3 things at once, so I'm sorry. What did you ask me?
I was saying, Paul, since I know that you're in TV, a lot of times what ends up happening is if you lose audio or you lose video, one or the other, but not both, you can still bill the customer in advertising dollars because you haven't lost the whole entire contribution. You've only lost a part of it. And so if you can show that audio is still transmitted and their commercial still aired, just not in the full auditory sense, there's probably in your policy standards somewhere, they're saying, well, I did communicate the message. It just didn't have full audio or pixelation the way that you wanted it to have. There's got to be a threshold in there somewhere in your literature, is there not?
Yeah, well, I guess that'll come down to business practice, good faith. If we were gonna, have an argument about it, we'd probably err on the side of making the customer happy.
Of
But
course.
it depends on, the details of the situation.
Right, but say you only missed 3 seconds of the video,
Right.
but you're still able to contribute audio. You're
Right.
not in violation of any contract because you're still able to contribute audio. And that would be one reason to send the audio separately and then ingest it into your transmitter and then do a time alignment if you needed to. And that's just me making a stretch. Again, you're in the TV spectrum, so this is why I was picking on you.
Right. Yeah. I think in principle, I could agree with that. As if the majority of the message is there, then it got delivered.
Right. And also another way that we work with this, David, is for instance, like with Turner Sports, we do all the IF, or we did do all the IF back for IFB talk back for the draft. So essentially you would have a serve link. They wouldn't have to send out a whole truck. They save about $40,000 per deployment with this truck that they would be sending along with a video truck. And all they have is one RU unit that is the serve link that can have 128 people talking in. And so they'll just do a simple thing like a Zoom or a venue or a live chat, live stream of the video that's currently going. So they can have live commentary from people that might be in New York or might be in Billings, Montana, or might be in Baton Rouge or Dallas, Texas, or Seattle, Washington. So it doesn't matter where you are, you could still be contributing back with those guest communications to the serve link.
Is there a way to send closures through this?
SNMP? Well, all of it has a GPIO connection on the back of the unit. So a talk, yes, a crosslink, an LE. So I'm pointing it back of me because I have units back there and realize that you guys can't see it. So sorry for just like waving my hand in the background. I have units behind me that they all have GPIO enclosures in general. No, with the guest, there's not a way to trigger it. That's why you have the time distribution where you say, hey, you know what? I'm going to send this email out at this time. And you set that parameter up there when you're creating your new guest link. And you're saying who you want it to go to and at what time. And that would be your, in a sense, your deliverables.
No, I was thinking like, let's say someone's doing a remote ball game and they want to signal the studio to go to commercial. There's no way to send any closure or anything.
Well, I mean, if you have them on talkback inside your ear, then you say, you mute your microphone, say, go to commercial. I mean, I'm assuming that you would have a little bit more intuition as far when your break is coming up, because your engineer would usually be inside your head saying, hey, you got a break in 10 seconds coming up, and 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, and then 3, 2, 1, and then cuts to commercial. And then you will be hearing that in your program side, and you also be able to hear them in the talkback, hey, you've got about 3 minutes and 21 seconds before you come back on, before we go live. And usually there's a little bit of fade in music, fade in, out. So you can transition between just one song directly into my harsh voice, coming on the air. So I don't do broadcasts.
Or I just to make a suggestion based on what David's saying, should be a little button on your web interface here that when we click on the link and bring it up and we say I agree, maybe a little button there, to start the studio, to tell the studio to start, or to at some point in the future you might rig out a dry contact or something like that.
Well, okay, so going back to that, I mean, if you have a guest, I mean, so I was acting on behalf of a guest. That's why I did copy to guest to clipboards instead of using my producer link. And so this is what the guest gets. So when the guest wants to call the studio, then they will click this button. I don't have to have an auto answer, but I can assign an auto answer.
Now, but somewhere on there, suppose there's a sporting event and the guest is actually your announcer. Could there be a little button there to say run spot or set off an alarm in the control room?
Yes, so that would be this particular section here. So if you wanted to run a particular spot, because again, you have all of these spots downloaded onto your computer. We're looking at the advanced version. This is where you could upload the music. So select file could be an automation system. This could be what you wanted to automate through like all of broadcast. Like you knew that you were going to have an hour worth of this, and that, and the other, and you're playing this out. This would be one of your ways that you could make that automation happen without it actually going back to the studio. Does that make sense?
So you're saying that the live announcer would have the file of all the spots with him?
He could, or you could have the broadcaster on the other side just filing in the spots, and then you're still on air. You just mute yourself and you wouldn't have to be a part of the conversation. It would just be muted. Channel 1 is muted for 30 seconds during the spot, and then you unmute yourself.
Yes, I think though what David was suggesting was that in some fashion, as we're talking right now, and I want to alert the studio that the commercial is ready to go without stopping talking to you, push a button to flash something on the studio screen.
Well, I can say that is actually coming. There's like a help button that is physically on the talk. If you're talking about like rescue or anything like that, that basically alerts them to say that there's something that needs to be addressed here, and they'll have a help, and then there's a tally of what do you need help with. Help with audio, you need help with codec, or you need help with X. But that is a firmware that is yet to be released, and I do not have the release date. So that particular function I don't have, but the rest of it I do.
I think David is hoping in the long run that there'll actually be dry contacts at the studio end, so that you could actually start something in case the board op was off to a potty break or something, and it's time for the commercial, and you start it from the remote location.
Okay, yeah, no, I understand what you're saying. Instead of doing a pure automation system and you waiting for the drop for it, that if someone is not kind of having their eye on the ball, that you can tackle. That actually brings up to codec fleet management. So if you are, and this was not a part of the conversation, and I apologize, Barry, because it's probably going to put you way over in your time, but that is where you can go into this. If the talent on the remote side is understanding how to do some of this, you can do an SD card backup as well. So if you need to change the remote that it's going to, and you need audio to start flowing, you can say, all right, I want to configure this, and I also want to remote control this particular unit. I have to, of course, configure it. I need to configure this unit. And once you've configured this unit and you want to have an SD card backup, you can then play that backup whenever you initiate the call, and you can press that to program. So that would be in your fleet management system. I'm sorry that I probably misunderstood what we were trying to get in that final, hope I got this ball across the yard.
Adding more features as you go along. Robert, I see you pop to the top of the list here. Were you wanting to say something?
No, I don't know why that happened.
Maybe you just wanted us to see you. As I was saying, Brittany, this seems to be very, very, very flexible. And the one thing that David put his finger on is that if you're out in the field as a sporting event, as an example, or a live remote from the car dealer, and the guy at the board op is not there when you want him, you should be able to start something.
Well, I mean, you can from your codec, you can start it at your you can go ahead and broadcast what you want to, and you can even put in, there is a.
Yes, no, I'm adding the complexity that the guy in the studio has already put the system ready to go. Live assist in the old days it would be a cartridge in the machine, but it's the live assist here, and all we want to do is fire that off so the commercial break starts.
Yeah, well, you do have listening ports, and again, this still would require an engineer to understand that this listening port needs to be like port forwarded to a certain area or section. So I mean, your engineer still needs to be kind of like on the ball and knowing when his breaks are and when they're not on breaks. But an extra tally feature of, hey, this commercial is ready to go, is understandable, but usually this is meant for like a live application. If you're just going to do like a recorded session, you can do a recorded session, import it into your computer, and then send it. Other than that, it's live. So however you want to handle the live situation, if you have people that are running back and forth to situations, then you might need to have a backup personnel that might be there. If they feel that they're going to be in the restroom for, more than 7 minutes at a time, maybe.
Well, mad dogs and Englishmen. Sorry, Jeff. No matter what you plan, something can happen.
Right. Well, and that's also why, like, if you don't hear anything on the codec side, which, I mean, again, the codec, you also have additional playouts. If your console is triggered to 1, 2, or 3 other different places, or if you're bringing in breaks because your automation is doing whatever, you do have an SD card backup. And I can also put additional conversations that maybe an advertiser or you and me, like, say I know that this engineer likes to take long bathroom breaks, on my record inside my talk unit, I can house an additional conversation, giving the engineer time to come back if I know that this person has not talked to me in my ear and told me that, hey, we're ready to go. Because, I mean, you're already connected to him in a codec sense. And you're like, Bueller, are you there, Bueller? And he's not answering. Then you're like, okay, I guess I'm going to roll with this other pre-recorded item, and or another word from our sponsors, or I'm going to play this band of music because I have it in my internal hard drive on my talk unit.
You're going to get angry at me, or David will suddenly pop back in and finish this. I understand exactly what you're saying, and I think in probably 99% of the cases, if I were doing a live remote, I'd want to have some audio with me so that I could take care of it just in case, instead of having to sit there and vamp for however long. But if I really wanted to start something remotely, there needs to be a little dry contact. And maybe this is something that the engineers at Digigram have already thought of or could implement with some attention. And
yeah,
this is, maybe more complex than what you expected to be asked, but it's a potential need.
I don't disagree with you. I mean, in any type of R&D conversations that need to be added to the IQOYA talk or the connected infrastructure is something cell phone, computer-based.
Bring in the programmers and you can add it.
I'm just reading Ben's information. Yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, thank you. Thank you, Ben, for chiming in there that there is GPIO contacts for the talk. There just wasn't one for the guest. And I think that's where David, if I'm not mistaken, that you were asking about David, like, hey, or, you know, for the guest type of situation, is there like a tally? Can I, like, you know, ping someone if they're not, you know, ready? The guest is more formulated for, I'm going to invite someone to audio, so I'm already prepared to receive that audio. But you are correct, Ben, in saying that the IQOYA talk does have 3 GPIO contacts where you can do any type of triggering or SNMP, or use your automation system to trigger something in general, so you can automatically be online. We've used this with a few different local stations that had some older gentlemen that didn't really want to work with the unit. They just wanted to be there and just be a microphone, and I didn't want to even turn it on. So we got them to turn it on and said, all right, the rest of it, just step back after you log in. We'll take care of the rest of it. It just has to be on. So it has auto answer, which codec it's going to, user-defined profile settings, how you want your microphone to sound, and everything. So they don't even have to deal with it. And that could just be, you know, channel 2 is going live now on your Livewire, your Dante infrastructure. Soon there'll be another one. Yes, thank you. Thank you very much, Ben. I like you being my co-host over there. He actually sent a remark in the meeting chat of some of the specifications for the IQOYA talk, so you can get a little bit more in depth on the product itself and what the back looks like, including like 2 USB units, which you can actually use to charge. There's a USB 3 in there as well. So you would do some of the USB-C, sorry, to import firmware, charge your cell phone off of it. And you can import audio through a USB if you'd like to. And you have dual Ethernet connections on the back. So if you had 2 people that you needed to communicate on separate, so mission critical audio, as well as 2 additional SIM card carriers. So if you're talking about reliability, I have my box connected via hardline with a Max Connect, which is Verizon, and I've got a T-Mobile card in, and I've also got a Freeway card inside my talk unit. So that way it's not going to lose connection at any point. If it's going to lose connection, it's going to be on the other side because I'm triple connected over here.
I think the bottom line is the flexibility here, that you have not only so many ways to make sure the connection happens, but also to adapt to the needs, whether it be a live remote, a guest, or whatever you have.
Yeah. And again, you can go through the call profile and say, like, you know, if you know that you're just an Opus house, or you know that you're just an ACLD house, then you can select just those items. So nobody has to go toggling through the bars or selecting anything. How many of those connections live at the same time? Does the rack, you know, automatically adjust to which feed it's using, or does it do splicing? Okay, so those connections live at the same time. So that depends on your home run codec. And home run codec meaning, do you have my serve link that does 128 mono or 64 stereo? Because that would be what you would want to be able to utilize how many talks. So you have 128 talks out in the field and you're doing mono feed from singular point, or you have 64 talks out there and you're doing a stereo, or using mono for 1 talk back and 1 feed. Now, if you're doing guest links, that's just gonna be how much do you want to pay for, because you can get 2 links for simultaneous communication after you buy the guest package. That's separate. You buy the guest package and you would have 2 communications, and then it'd be however many links you would have simultaneously. Again, you can have 50,000 users, but you don't have 50,000 users at the same time. And so again, every single one of us can listen to the codec right now, at different times. Or if you want us all to be able to listen to this codec, we all need to be, or I need to be having this on the serve link that can go up to 128 channels on one RU. So it's kind of expandable. Just depends on what type of application you want. Yeah, Ben?
Yeah, I was saying more on that portable unit, the IQOYA talk. It's got cell 1, cell 2, Wi-Fi, Ethernet 1, and Ethernet 2. Can you run all 5 of those connections at once?
Yeah, I'm doing it right now.
Okay, so like if cell 2 gets overloaded, it'll switch over to cell 1 or
Yeah,
Ethernet
it's
is,
almost like an internal forward error correction. Like it literally wants to take your strongest bond and use that until it degrades enough to use something else. But like right now, I've got the Max Connect and I've got both the cell carriers. So if I disconnected Max Connect and that was my main mission, then one of the cell carriers would pick up, or Wi-Fi, because I've got Wi-Fi on for our house. So actually I have 4 connections going on.
great, yeah, thank you.
Yep, no problem.
When I was writing the original note to let folks know what we were doing today, I flashed back, of course, the first thing was just a phone line that would be strung between a hotel and the studio. Then the Marty units became common. And if you had a remote, you'd go out there and you'd hook up a Marty and fiddle with the antenna, see if you get the signal back to the studio from the right place. Then when the internet came along, now we had 2 little things that happened, because about the same time with cell phones, actually the cell phone was 10 years earlier. And I was thinking about a station that I worked for, a group, and they were just too lazy to take their Marty out. So they'd take their cell phone out there and they'd shout into the cell phone, and the audio is just distorted as all get out and cut out periodically. The internet gave a little bit better connection, but still the software was difficult to set up. And I think the things that I've seen from what you've been doing here is, once you've installed this, it seems to be very quick and easy to get someone or some ones on the air.
Yeah, and the thing is, you can just have DHCP on and it can be slung down anywhere. It does not matter where this unit is. I can take this to any conference show in general and it won't matter. And that's the cool part about this particular feature function is, it doesn't matter what box you pick up. I can pick up any of the IQOYA Talk boxes. And as long as I log into it, all of my profiles, all of my settings, anything that I find custom to me or what codecs I'm going to talk to is going to drop directly into this box. And then just like if you had your serve links, it doesn't matter. You don't have to be on a certain VPN, doesn't have to be certain anything. Connect it to the web and all of your settings are already still initiated. So you can just go ahead and continue on. You don't have to reset all of your parameters. It's already set there. You can actually verify it by going into your codec fleet management system and seeing what your parameters are. What are your configurations?
And just to make it real clear for anyone that missed that part, this is a suite of applications so that you only need to purchase the ones you need.
Right. But what I was going to say is, you do have the basic that comes with the IQOYA Connect. So if you have a talk, if you just buy 1 unit or an LE, you'll get for your configuration, you'll get a little house that says, hey, do you want to do all this cool stuff? Configuration presets, just in case you have a preset library that you want to load in. You'll have your users, because you might have 10 users or whatnot. And this is when you can change the user to have no control or all control. You only want them to be contributor. This is where, sticky fingers get sticky hands, and you don't want them to be a fleet manager. You don't want them to accidentally take a codec off because they don't know what they're doing. So you can take them off of the roles. Same thing with fleets. You can go to a particular fleet and you can delete the device, modify the device, change the name, change the device. I can say I'm in the US or I'm in Bangladesh the very next day. So yeah. It is a suite that you can buy the guest that's independent, that does not come with it. Vox is a new item that we have not released yet. So you guys are kind of getting a sneak peek of a secondary journalist type program. You will get the call profiles and contacts, and you won't get the call monitoring unless you ask for it. Because if you just have an LE or if a third party unit like a Commerx or Tyler or an APT unit back at the studio, and you just have our talk and you're making the initiation, why would you pay to have call monitoring when you are the person who is initiating the phone call and there's nobody back in the studio?
Very good.
least that's the way I see it is you pay for what you need. You don't just get a whole bunch of items. You just pay for what you need. If you don't need guest because guest is not something a part of like what you'd be using in your typical infrastructure, then don't get guest. You just get the free basic connect of IQOYA Connect.
Good. Any other questions, folks that have comments, questions, anything you'd like to know, whether they can be done with the IQOYA?
Yeah, Barry, I got a question. I understand there's the guest mode and there's a host mode. And just to be the jerk that I am, Brittany, is there a co-host mode? Because a lot of times I'm seeing a lot of stations where everybody is remoting in. Is there a host and a co-host mode where, or you can have dual hosting and then also have a guest coming in? Obviously, you need three or four computers to do it all, but are there different modes?
I mean, we can test that out, but primarily what this is you have a producer and a guest. I don't have a co-host mode in a single web codec instance, but we have multiple codec instances that are coming. And some of these things are in questions that you'll be delighted to hear in new rollouts that will allow you to ask more in-depth questions that I'm not allowed to talk about. You answer a very complete question that, would that be a good feature? Yes, I agree. So does a lot of people at Digigram in the R&D field. They would feel that a co-host or a second listening port or a second listening email, somewhere where people can actually access the information and listen in only, as they listen in only, and like text the other person, hey, what's going on, but not be a live contributor as a three-way communication device, but just be still a two-way communication that's recorded.
Okay.
So,
I'm
not
sorry
saying-
to throw these.
I'm not saying it's not in the
specific
future, but
questions.
I'm saying it's not a current item at this. All questions are welcome. If I don't have the answer, it's a feature yet,
Well, I'll be looking forward to seeing how this works in the field and how more features are added to it. Excellent product, and really appreciate your coming and sharing with us.
Oh, it's my pleasure. There is a number of products or a number of features that I think many people will be very interested in the near future, releasing probably mid-October, if not sooner, hopefully.
Yeah, because we all think of Digigram as an audio card company, and there's so much more now. So we're wanting to hear these things.
It's funny because Digigram has been in the codec business for over 38 years. It's just been a little bit more popular over the pond, as they say. For that type of instance. But I mean, think about the Tokyo Olympic Games. We were the main carriers for most of the audio transport for the sports teams, and the live news coverage. So we were primarily the backbone infrastructure for all the audio. And it wasn't just the audio cards.
Very nice. Very nice.
Any other questions?
Well, again, we thank you and look forward to having you back to talk about more of the Digigram family.
Okay, it would be my pleasure. Thank you all.
Right.
And about the cats.
Huh?
And the
And
cat.
about the cat.
Oh, and the cats. Yes, and how many cats that I have that I have not. Thank you, Ben, and everybody. Yes.
One
So
thing
if
I'll
anybody wants to see
mention,
cats, just let me know.
one thing I'll mention, you didn't throw a screen up here, contact information.
Yeah. So my contact information. Go back over.
I could probably grab it here somewhere, but I thought maybe you might have it.
Yeah, I have it. Just if you want to contact me directly, just bring up my email here. So if you contact Digigram directly, then that's fine too. But if not, then bring this over here. All right. Just in case. Look at that, Mary. Thanks for chiming in. I appreciate you. I was about to copy it directly over, but you beat me to it. I appreciate the partnership there. I love. So yes, that was my contact information. Cell phone is best if you need a direct, quick answer. Email, I travel a good bit, so I will get to it as I can. And then Fort Lauderdale will just transfer the phone call over to my cell phone.
Anybody wants to take a screenshot or grab it or whatever, there you are.
And I can come give live demonstrations to even your third-party connected items if that is something you need, or I can send it to you and then we can do this via Zoom and I can get you up and running with your third-party codec if you're not fully committed to yes, that's correct. You can buy any of the IQOYA products from Mary or from Brian that are here on the Zoom meeting as well.
Well, I'm glad you came by.
Thank you for having me.